Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wisco Fanatics. It is myself, Jake, and my dad. Today we have a fun episode that I've been thinking about wanting to do for a while. It's Mount Rushmores, and it's only players that we have seen. So I was born in 1992. My dad was born in 1969. So everybody that my dad remembers in his lifetime and everybody that I remember in my lifetime that I think was fun and I really enjoyed. And, the cool word nowadays is aura. These players had aura around them. So after we get back from the intro, we'll get into it.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
All right, welcome back. Hi, Dad. How you doing? How was your day?
It was pretty good.
Good. So happy Father's Day to everybody out there, all the dads out there. I got two of them. I got my present for my daughter today. She makes me a little picture every year. She put her foot as her body, and her hand is her cape, and she told me that I make her strong like a superhero. So that made me pretty proud. I love that. And I also got a daddy shark sticker. So, baby shark is a big thing in my house, but, there it is. But today we're going to be doing our Mount Rushmores. So we're going to be doing our all-time players that we have seen from the Wisconsin Badgers. We're putting basketball and football together from the Milwaukee Brewers, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Green Bay Packers. And then at the end, we're making an all-time Mount Rushmore. So all the teams combined, your top four players, and this is only people we have seen, not overall. This isn't like an overall talent. Otherwise, we'd be completely different lists, right? But as we get started, we're going to start with the Wisconsin Badgers. So, Dad, why don't you give me your number one?
Barry Alvarez.
Barry Alvarez. I feel like a fool because I didn't even consider coaches in a lot of this stuff. So why don't you explain why you have him on there? I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Because I lived through a lot of years of bad football. And when he came to become coach, he just changed Wisconsin football around completely.
Yeah. And now, Fickle's coming in.
It's so funny that the knock was always, if we just get a quarterback, we can win the national championship.
Yeah.
That wasn't him. I mean, his style was run and defense. And, I mean, he had some really top-ranked teams and stuff, and just it's still hard to beat the Ohio States and the Alabamas. And now it's getting different because now you have money involved. So,
yeah.
I wonder what Barry Alvarez thinks about that.
That's a good question. Maybe I'll get, or maybe Tyler and I can get Scary Alvarez back on here, and we can ask him what he thinks.
Yeah, hey, that would be a good question to ask. The old school coaches and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of have some insight on that because you know how Nick Saban feels. He was like, "Yeah, screw this," and he just got out of there. And he was going to get paid regardless wherever he went. He could go be a commentator. He could be a pregame show guy. Like he could do whatever he wants because he's Nick Saban, right? He's earned that, right? So
Nick Saban is what, 73 years old?
Yeah, he's getting up there.
Don't you think he just want to go fishing and retire and enjoy his wife and grandkids? And
I guess not.
Hey, guess what? I'm ready for that. So if everybody wants to donate to me my retirement fund, I'm in.
He's in.
Just putting that out there.
So for my number one, I put Frank the Tank. Put Frank Kaminsky as my number one. He was Player of the Year. He was in the form of basketball that the Badgers used to play, where it was motion offense and having a center that could stretch. He was the best that I've seen. I mean, the Polar Bear was pretty good. We've had some good guys over the year. Ethan Happ was a pretty good player, but being the Player of the Year, and then the thing for me, the cherry on top, was they made the national championship. Should have won the national championship, but shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? But they did beat an undefeated Kentucky team. And seeing all those Kentucky players, I still watch those clips today. Seeing those Kentucky players, how mad they were after that game in the post-game pressers, that makes everything so sweet because it was like, yeah, You stay mad, guy. You stay mad. And a couple of them that were really talking trash kind of flamed out in the NBA. And I know Frank didn't last very long, but he stayed there for a little bit. He was a top 10 pick, and he got paid, and he was great at Wisconsin. So that's why he was number one on my list. That was the first guy I thought of.
Wisconsin basketball is like the king of the European League.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm pretty sure Jordan Taylor and Decker play on the same team over in London.
The England team?
Yeah.
Well, he won a championship there with a game-winning basket.
Yeah, well, he was pretty clutch in college too.
I know, but Decker this year.
I know.
It's like.
So why don't you
go in high school?
What's that?
In high school, he won the championship on the last second shot.
At a pretty tiny school.
I remember we played against them in 6th grade.
Yeah? You coached against them?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that. Why don't you go ahead and give me your number 2?
Okay, another coach. Bo Ryan.
Bo Ryan, okay.
You know, and I almost feel bad because I got to give a shout out to Dick Bennett because he did go to a Final Four with even less talent.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually started making Wisconsin basketball relevant again.
Mm-hmm.
But Bo Ryan took it to a whole new level. I mean, you look at Bo Ryan's record and stuff, amazing for a school that, you know, could never recruit.
You know, or get the athletes or anything like that, right? So,
but how do you not? And you had to love Bo Ryan's animation.
Yeah.
You know, you could tell when he was so pissed with the coaches or the refs, you know, but he would.
Yeah.
I love it.
So if you can't tell, my dad's really big into coaching. So that's where I get a lot of how I watch the games. I watch how things are moving, the adjustments, and that's kind of where that base came from, is listening to my dad my whole life. But my number 2, he was Wisconsin born. He didn't get recruited here right away. He ended up transferring here and changing positions, becoming a Hall of Famer in the NFL, J.J. Watt. That was another easy one for me. I was like, yeah, he's from Wisconsin. That doesn't happen very often. And becoming a Hall of Famer, yeah, monster. If he wouldn't have had all the injuries stack up on him, and it's crazy because he was so big, like being 6'6", 300 pounds and being that fast and that strong, like your body can only handle so much, you know?
Yeah, he played at about 280, I think, in college.
Yeah. But, you know, just the wear and tear that your body takes, and then you're getting doubled and triple teamed, and every play is bang, bang, and like your body can only handle so much. So, clearly one of the best pass rushers in NFL history. I think today he's still the only player with multiple 20-plus sack seasons. So he was the first, and I think he's still the only one. But amazing, amazing athlete J.J. Watt was. Now your number 3.
I had J.J. Watt.
Yeah, okay. Well,
just because, you know, he... you know, being defensive player of the year, I got TJ Watt, you know, but I mean, coming out of Wisconsin, I mean, they've always had great defenses and they put people in the NFL. It's just, they never became superstars like JJ did. You know, everybody knew his name.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, that's a game changer, you know, I mean, he took it to a whole new level.
For sure. So my number 3, personally, now the old heads are going to come after me, but the best running back, the most complete, most talented running back that I think that I've seen there, and this is going to sound crazy, is Jonathan Taylor. I really mulled over this. I was like, man, I mean, Melvin Gordon had that 400-yard game. He had a lot of crazy games. I mean, we've had players, P.J. Hill, Calhoun. I mean, I didn't get to appreciate Ron Dane because I was such a little kid, you know. So I can't put Ron Dane up there because I don't remember him. So remember, if you're watching this, there's only players that we've seen, you know, our all-time Mount Rushmores from players that we've seen. So player that I remember, Jonathan Taylor, that guy was a monster. And then he went to the NFL and he was still lighting it on fire. Then he got into the contract dispute, but hopefully he'll have a big year this year. Just skips week 2 because he comes to Green Bay that week. And has a good rest of the season after that. But Jonathan Taylor was on my number 3. Who is your number 4?
Well, I'm going with the Great Dane.
I knew it.
Well, he won a Heisman.
Mm-hmm.
That was the run of Rose Bowls for the Badgers.
Mm-hmm.
Winning the Heisman, though, that put Wisconsin running backs on the map.
Yeah.
Because, before him, you don't remember, but Alvarez starting the run of Rose Bowls. We had Brent Moss, Terrell Fletcher, these guys that weren't big-time recruits, they were 3 stars maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But they just performed.
Yeah. Yep.
Brent Moss, I think he made it to the NFL, and I believe he also got in trouble with drugs. Well, Monte Ball, same thing.
He was a consideration. I was like, man.
Ralph Fletcher was basically the backup to Brent Moss.
Uh-huh.
And then when he graduated, he got 1 year as a starter. He got drafted by Detroit and was a great third down back. He could catch the ball. He was slippery or whatever you want to call him,
Yeah.
Brent Moss, he wasn't a super big guy, but he tried to run you over.
Oh, okay.
That was the Smash Mouth football for Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ron Dane, he was so fun to watch in college.
Freaking truck.
And I don't think he was in the right scheme.
Mm-hmm.
He was this type of runner. And the NFL, I mean, totally different game. The speed, just everything, College, you play against. Maybe, if a team is so crazy like the Miami defense back in the years or whatever that had 5 first rounders or something,
Yeah.
That doesn't happen a whole lot. A lot of times you're only playing against one guy that might be in the NFL.
True.
So it's like,
Yeah, that's true. So to round out my Badgers Mount Rushmore, and I didn't want to force a Badger basketball player in there. I went with another football player. But I think the best offensive lineman to ever play for the Badgers was a number 3 overall pick. And his draft situation kind of forced him on the list where he was fishing with his dad instead of going to the actual and walking on the stage. I put Joe Thomas on there, man. Just a mammoth of a man. You could plug him in there at left tackle and you're like, yep, he's an all-pro. And he was just a monster. He was a beast. Played on a lot of bad Cleveland teams, but he stayed loyal. He could have forced his way out of there and went to a different franchise and, maybe won a ring or two, but he stayed loyal. And, I respect the hell out of that. So that's
and that's probably the good old Wisconsin life values or whatever, core values, family values.
That was something that I considered when I was thinking about this. So Joe Thomas was my number 4. So now we're gonna go to the Brewers.
Hold on. I got a couple
okay,
like honorable mentions.
Okay.
I did have Frank as a possibility to be on there, like you said, player of the year and all that stuff.
Yep.
Michael Finley was pretty good back in the day.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Do you remember Finley at all?
I remember Finley playing on the Maverick teams. Yeah. With Dirk.
Alonzo Tucker.
He was almost on there. He was the guy I would have forced on there.
He was
the guy I would have forced on there over Joe Thomas, Alonzo Tucker or Joe Thomas. That's who it came down to.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So, I'm not like trying to say basketball sucked. It's just, football brings in all the dollars.
Mm-hmm. What's up, Reggie? How you doing, buddy? Happy Father's Day to you as well, my man. So now we're going to switch from the Badgers. We're going to go to the Brewers. We're going to be giving our Brewers Mount Rushmore. And I want you to remember, I'm going to have to preface this every time. It's only players that we have seen. So when you hear that I don't have Robin Yount on there, I don't think that Robin Yount's not one of the top 4 players, okay? I just didn't get to see him play. I know he was very good. But we're going to get this going. So, Dad, give me your number one on your Brewers Mount Rushmore.
Robin Young.
Yep.
I mean, how can it not be? If he doesn't lead it, he's in the top 3 of a stat for the Brewers all time.
Yep.
I mean, it's 2-time MVP winner, 2 different positions.
Yep.
The kid, they call him the kid, because he came up at 19, and
yep.
you're a shortstop, which in the major leagues is like the coach out there,
Yep, that's the premier position. So actually, I have a story about that. I was at a card show with our sponsor, and I was talking to a guy, and he had a Ken Griffey card called the Kid, and then he had a Robin Young card, and it did say the Kid on there. And I was like, they both should say the Kid. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, that's Robin Young's nickname.
He was the kid before the kid.
And I was like, he came before him. And he's like, that's it. I'm not calling Griffey the Kid anymore. Only Young gets the Kid name. I was like, I mean, they could both have it. It's not a big deal. But
well, you got to remember that Ken Griffey's dad played, so
yep.
It was pretty easy for them to give the Kid nickname to him.
That's pretty cool that he got to play with his dad, by the way.
Dream.
Yeah. I mean,
and I guess, people rip on LeBron because he's trying to do that.
I don't understand why they get mad about that, but it's whatever. Also, go watch our draft episode we did on Friday. Lots of good stuff coming out of there. And we'll have some posts upcoming for you guys with our draft specials. So my number one is very easy. By far and away my favorite Brewer of all time. This is not even close. Ryan Braun. The guy was clutch. And you want to talk about changing, the team, right? And changing the direction of franchises. Now, we had all these people come up, the J.J. Hardys, the Ricky Weeks. Prince Fielder was very good. He's the youngest player, Prince Fielder, youngest player ever to hit 50 homers in a season, MLB history. But then when Ryan Braun got there, and I grew up in a really good era of Brewers baseball, and I'm still living it today. I didn't get to have to deal with a lot of losing. Now, we had some losing seasons, but I grew up in a really good era for Brewers baseball, and I think Ryan Braun was the cherry on top, and he was always clutch. He had the sweetest swing, and I remember when we were younger, me and Curtis would be outside, and all of a sudden Curtis would go back outside after we come back in, and Braun would hit a homer. He's like, I'm never going to see Braun hit home runs. And I'm like, you just got to sit down once in a while, guy. But Ryan Braun, far and away my favorite Brewer of all time. But let's move on to number two. Who's your number two?
Paul Molitor. They were Batman and Robin.
Yep.
He did so good for the Brewers as leadoff.
Mm-hmm.
He still hit enough home runs.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have, a 47-game hitting streak or something?
That's
I'm not sure. I should have looked that up. But I know they actually talked about when he got to 40 or whatever, like, holy crap, because DiMaggio's record or whatever is never getting touched.
Never.
So when Molitor was doing that, and I think it was a rainy night against the White Sox that it ended. And it's like, that sucks. But obviously it sucked. But he was just a great leadoff guy. He could play third base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's a Hall of Famer. He's got over 3,000 hits,
Yeah.
He won a ring in Toronto.
Yeah. So my number two, since we're talking about Batmans and Robins, I'm going to talk about a guy. He had a home run once against Cleveland, and it sounded like a shotgun came off. Prince Fielder, Ryan Braun together. You want to talk about a scenario in baseball that was like peanut butter and jelly? They were perfect complements for each other. And it wasn't that they kind of protected each other or anything like that. It was just that Braun hit for such a high average, and Prince Fielder was such a power threat that you couldn't walk Braun. And they both had power for 5-6 years, where it was like both of them could hit a home run at any given time. Both of them can hit a double at any given time. Also, Prince Fielder has the best home run celebration of all time when he jumped on home plate and everybody else fell down. Best SI cover ever. And I don't want you to debate me. Go talk to your wall. Okay. That's all I care about. And after that, after you talk to your wall, you can come back and you can hear number 3. So, Dad, who's your number 3?
My number 3 was Raleigh Fingers.
Hey. All right. So, Dad's repping the 80s Brewers.
Them teams were fun and magical because, there were so many characters on that team.
Mm-hmm.
They were just, and you got to remember, back then, you did not get to watch a lot of baseball.
Okay.
It ain't like nowadays.
How many games did you get to see?
Oh, they would show games on Saturday afternoons and Monday Night Baseball.
No.
Yeah.
So
you listened a lot on TV or radio.
Oh, wow. I guess I never.
Oh, my God. You know what now?
I know. Don't worry.
Not put Euchre in there.
Don't worry. Hey, settle down. Settle down.
Oh.
Settle down. Settle down.
I'm thinking of coaches and players. Oh, my God.
Hey, settle down.
You saved the day, I think. All right.
So
Raleigh Fingers, I don't know exactly how many years he played with the Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
But, the couple years they won championships, and
Yep.
The Eastern Division. And there were only 2 divisions back then.
Yeah.
So, you had 2 teams make the playoffs, and then 1 team went to the World Series. So different.
That's true.
But I can remember them winning the AL championship and seeing Raleigh Fingers pitch and Ted Simmons just jumping in his arms, and it's like, oh my God, we're in a World Series, 1982, And of course, we had to play the freaking Cardinals.
Yeah.
And that was such a great 7-game series. I mean, that was by far the 2 best teams that year. Just, even though we lost, it was still, to me.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I get it. Like, I have fun.
And I'm a baseball fan, so, obviously you can kind of, the old school stuff. Not that I don't like some of the players now, because we got some, we've had a lot of talent the last few years.
We have.
So, yeah, Raleigh Fingers, plus the stash. Come on.
Yeah, that's legendary.
Not everybody can pull shit off like that.
No, you're right. Not everybody. So my next one is going to be a guy who's a modern player and maybe the best peak I've ever seen for a 2-year run, and it's Yelich. Christian Yelich made my Mount Rushmore. 2018, 2019, Christian Yelich. If that guy doesn't get hurt at the end of 2019, he has back-to-back MVPs. And he's hitting 50 homers that year, and the Brewers were on fire. They went on a slide after he got hurt, and it sucks that he got hurt and he had some down years, but he seems like he's back to playing in his MVP caliber self. So Christian Yelich was my number 3. Now, Dad, when you're ready, I want you to give me your number 4 on your Mount Rushmore.
Oh, sorry, he had a 39-game hit streak.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I thought it was 40. Anyways, well, my last one was Ryan Braun.
Hey,
just because when he did come in, and I watched the first couple games, and he smoked a couple home runs or whatever, I'm like, this kid's got it.
Mm-hmm.
You could just see it. And unfortunately, everybody's going to associate the injuries and then
the roids,
right, to get back on the field.
Yeah.
Well, I get why players do it because, when they're making that kind of money, they hear all the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Paying them all this money, you can't even play. Well, you're expecting him to go out there. Baseball, even though it's not physical, it's still physically demanding.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many games.
Yeah.
Swinging a bat. After you do it a while, you're going to get sore. I mean, I know these guys are in shape and all that.
But they're facing special circumstances. Like we were talking about that when McGill against the Cubs took that line drive right off the elbow. And people are commenting and they're saying like, what, he couldn't even kick the ball to home plate? Like, this is what I challenge everybody. I want you to go to the batting cage and go into 60 mile per hour, and I want you to get hit directly in the elbow, and you tell me if your first thought is to kick a baseball to home plate. If it's not, then please shut the hell up. Now I want you to add 40 miles per hour to that.
When we get done with this, I got some honorable mentions or mini Rushmore or something.
Mini Rushmore, I like that. So my last one, I did put Bob Uecker on there.
I feel bad now because he should have been in mine too.
Yeah.
What I tell you guys, listen to this guy because he ain't gonna be there forever. But man, he's awesome to listen to.
Yeah, he's awesome. The stories he tells, the jokes he comes up with, like he makes you feel like you're there with him, and that's something that is a real skill that not everybody has, right? And me and Aiden, when we go outside and we play baseball during the day, I turn on the radio if the Brewers are on, and I listen to Uke. I turn the radio all the way up in the garage, and I let Uke just blast. I'm like, you know what? If somebody gets mad listening to Bob Uecker, they got problems. First of all, okay. So everybody just listen to Bob Uecker, enjoy the baseball game. Me and my son are gonna go play catch, and it is what it is. But Bob Uecker, absolutely a legend. So as we've established that, I want you to give me your honorable mentions on your mini Rushmore, as you called it.
Ben Sheets. Without the arm troubles, man, he could have been one of the all-time greats.
That's true.
Then there's probably a couple names you don't know. Sixto Loscano. He played right field.
Yeah.
And he was back in the 80s teams, and he was kind of a role player and stuff. I just loved his name when I was a kid.
I don't blame you.
So when I was playing baseball, I mean, I played all over, but I enjoyed either pitching or playing outfield. And so I always was Sixto Loscano in my head, cool name. And
it makes sense to me.
And then, you ever hear the name Gorman Thomas?
Oh, yeah. Power guy.
Yeah. But that guy looked like he was just out there looking for somebody to give him a beer. He was not your prototypical baseball player, He had the old handlebars going down the face. And, there were some good pitchers too. Pete Vukovich, Them 80s teams had a lot of characters and a lot of great guys. Jim Gantner, Eden, Wisconsin, playing for, he was kind of that triangle with Robin Yount and Paul Molitor.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's one guy, and it's not by his stats. And again, I was young, so I liked Rob Deere.
Mm-hmm.
He could have played in a game now because it was home run or strikeout.
Oh.
For some reason, I liked him. And I guess I can remember, did the Brewers win 14 in a row to start the season in 1 year? I think it was 14. And I just remember like number 11 or number 12, one of the games, he hit a walk-off home run to win it, and again, on the radio. So you're listening to this, and you're just going nuts, and good memories,
Oh yeah, as Tyler would say, the vibes are immaculate. So I had to get that out there. So when Tyler listens back to it, I said it at least once in the episode.
My other comment was about Braun, Yount, and Molly.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Brewer all-time hits, home runs, triples, everything, you're going to see their names a lot.
You sure are.
So it's, if you want to go statistically.
I just went with the feel-good vibes, the players that I like the most.
Well, I'm trying to think of the players that not only were dominant or whatever, but really made an impact.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so as the Badgers and Brewers are done, we got two more left of just the teams, and then we have our all-time. So we're going to move on to the Milwaukee Bucks, and I want you to give me your number one. We could probably do it at the same time, but I'll let you say yours first.
Sidney Moncrief.
Okay, not my number one, but I know he was very good.
And so you kind of went through some up and down teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a couple playoffs when you were young, and then nothing. 80s were great.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we always ended up going against either 76ers that had Dr. J, Moses Malone, etc., or we had to go against the powerful Boston team with Bird and McHale, Parrish, Danny,
It's always
So
been.
them three teams ruled the East.
Mm-hmm.
And Sidney Moncrief, I think he came from Arkansas. But God, this guy was just hard nosed. He wasn't flashy,
Mm-hmm.
but he could get to the hole, just solid player, and he was out there every game. I just, that hard work ethic, that was what I loved about him.
Well, I mean, a couple defensive player of the years as well as a shooting guard is pretty impressive in my opinion. But my number one, I mean, he's the best player in Bucks history. He's still, in my mind, the best player in the league right now. Like I don't think it's a question for me if everybody's healthy, because he plays on the other end of the court on defense as long as offense. Where a couple of these guys that are getting questioned, is he the best player in the league? They play on one end of the court. It's obviously Giannis Antetokounmpo. We hit the lottery ticket of all lottery tickets drafting this kid. If you would have looked at this kid as an 18-year-old and saw this scrawny 6'9", 196-pound kid and told me that he's going to turn into one of the best power forwards in NBA history, I would have laughed at you. Because I would have been like, I don't know what you are smoking over there, guy. But it must be good because you are talking silly. And he proved everybody wrong, man.
Day James, Reggie.
I got to check. Hey, what's up, James? How you doing, buddy? Doing good, man. Hope you're doing good over there. James is actually a Celtics fan. He's one of the few nice ones, so we welcome him on the show. But with Giannis, I mean, you want to talk about hard work. You want to talk about being down to earth. You want to talk about everything. I mean, staying loyal. He could have left a couple of times now, but he decided to stay in Milwaukee. He loves Milwaukee. He has donations where he was giving out diapers to kids in need, families in need of diapers a couple of years ago, and it was just like, any superlative you have on Giannis, you could say it because he's literally the nicest guy. And then he gets on the court and he dunks on you and he screams in your face and it's awesome. So
he never forgot where he came from. When he was young, he sold pencils.
Yeah, that's insane.
To try to make a few pennies,
it's insane. His story is. I mean, they've made movies about it, obviously, but it's literally what you make movies about. His story is what you make movies about. It's crazy. Let's move on to number two. Who's your number two?
I had Marcus Johnson.
Oh, okay.
Again, came into the 80s against all the good teams.
Yeah.
If you look at Bucks records and stuff,
mm-hmm.
You're going to see his name on there a lot.
Yeah.
That's one record Giannis doesn't have yet. Offensive rebounds. Marcus Johnson is leader.
And Marcus Johnson is great on TV too. I love listening to him.
He does pretty well.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, I was reading James's comment.
That's okay. I'll get to it in a second here. I'm going to give my number two, then I'll get to it. My number two was a guy who was a number one overall pick, and he ended up breaking his arm tragically. But I went with Andrew Bogut. I just get good vibes with Bogut, man. Number one pick in 2005. He put the team on his back for a while there. He played some elite defense, blocked a lot of shots, carried that entire end of the court. And then when he was starting to shoot hook shots from like 15 feet and cashing them, I was like, yo, what is going on with this guy? Also getting called Andrew Bogut in high school kind of swayed this one for me a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. I used to rock the jersey tee for Andrew Bogut at all the open gyms and get called Bogut when I would do a right-hand hook. So just good vibes with Andrew Bogut. Love that guy.
They called you Morrison too.
Yeah, you remember that game? The guy was like, hey, Andrew Bogut. He was like, no, I'm thinking more Adam Morrison. And then I went down there and I airballed it. So it didn't matter which one they called me. I was worse than both of them. So James
was so funny.
That is all. Also, did you know Giannis basically grew up on stateless? Crazy. Yeah.
Stateless.
I'm not going to agree with the Celtics in 5. There was a tweet that's been going around the internet, and it says you have to be a sick person if you want the Celtics to lose in a 3-0 lead, and I am a very sick person if that is the case. Sorry, it is what it is. So let's get back to the list here. Who is your number 3 on your Milwaukee Bucks Mount Rushmore?
It sucked that he had to leave at some point, but he didn't get drafted by the Bucks, but he got traded to the Bucks, and he made a lot of 3-pointers.
Oh, did he? Who is he? Ray Allen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was pretty good. You know, again, I could have went back to some 80s guys. 70s, you know, I saw them play, but not a whole lot that I remembered, you know.
Right.
I mean, I know I watched them, but
right.
So it's kind of it sucked because there's a lot of history with the Bucks too that we could have went to. It's amazing though. Not a lot of guys stayed more than 6-7 years.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy, actually.
You know, I mean, you had a Sidney Moncrief and a Marcus Johnson. Ray Allen actually was with the Bucks 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like you say, you got Giannis. That carries a lot of weight.
It does. So my number 3 is also a guy that made a lot of 3-pointers, but he was a second-round pick out of Ohio State, and I went with Michael Redd. Love Michael Redd. He was, and as you said before, I grew up in a weird era for Bucks. I mean, I grew up in a great era for Brewers where they started to win and get a bunch of really good players and were very consistent. The Bucks have been like this. And now we've had some stability for a long while now, since 2017, basically, when Giannis won the most improved player. But before that, it was really the Michael Redd show, Mo Williams. I mean, we've had a number of players kind of add to it. And when I was a little kid, man, it was Michael Redd. He was the guy. And I remember watching him. Oh God, I don't even remember how old I was. But I remember watching a game against the Lakers when Kobe was on top of the world after Shaq got traded. And Michael Redd was going toe for toe with Kobe Bryant. Shot for shot, 3-pointer for 3-pointer, and one for and one. And he was going insane. And I always felt like he never got the respect he deserved. I always felt that way about Michael Redd.
I agree with Michael Redd only because, you know, second-round pick.
Right.
You know, he wasn't – a lot of second-round picks didn't make the NBA a whole lot.
No.
Unless you're, you know, on the bench, you know, and
he turned into a legit
all-star. People sub out, but he just worked at it. Just shot the ball, and turned himself into a good shooter, a great shooter, you know.
Yeah, I mean, he made the Redeem team just because of his shooting ability. I mean, and the weirdest, I mean, I should say the oddest thing about Michael Redd is he shot all those threes left-handed, and then every time he would dunk, it was with the right hand.
Yep.
He was like, man.
And they weren't flashy dunks. They were just.
No, they were the rim raiders. Oh, yeah. So let's go to the final person on each of our lists. So I'll let you go first. Who is number 4?
I had Giannis. How can you not?
You can't have a Bucks list without Giannis.
I do have some honorable mentions again. So
no, that's fine. That's fine. I'll let you go. So my last one is the originator of the Bucks in 6. He was the guy that brought the swag to the Bucks when they were down. And we were having all those 40 and 42 years and making the playoffs as the 8 seed. And we would throw a party because we won one game in the playoffs. It was Brandon Jennings. So many good vibes around Brandon Jennings. And I have a little add-in on Brandon Jennings. Jennings was just good enough to get traded to the Pistons. And in that deal, we got a throw-in. And the throw-in was Chris Middleton. And I know. And I was never a big Chris Middleton guy either.
The second round pick, Chris
Another
Middleton.
second round. He's the first player ever to be an All-Star after being in the G League. First player ever. He's been really good in the playoffs for us the last couple of years when he was healthy. He did have the really bad playoff series against Toronto when we needed him in 2019, but it is what it is. But he's been really good, and we would not have won the 2021 title without him. And Brandon Jennings, he gave us the Bucks and 6, and then he basically handed us a title by getting Chris Middleton partnered with Giannis. And
I wouldn't say handed a title to him.
He did kind of.
He wanted out of Milwaukee. He got his wish.
Yeah. I will say, Jennings and Monte Ellis were fun to watch together for a few years there. They were fun together. I mean, they were both just fun and athletic, and that was all we had.
Very athletic.
I mean, we didn't have much in Milwaukee before Giannis came here. We weren't building championship contenders, so we were just looking for some highlights.
All right,
go ahead with your honorable mentions.
So my other players, you probably could have put the big dog on there.
Yeah,
Glenn Robinson, a number 1 overall pick.
Yep.
Out of Purdue. I couldn't stand him because he played at Purdue. Being a Wisconsin guy.
Yeah.
But he ended up having a pretty nice career for the Bucks.
Yeah.
They did have the one team, Sam Cassell, Ray Allen, and they made the East Finals with Brad Lohaus at center, I think. Yeah. Skinny, 7'1" white guy. Not very athletic. I can't remember.
Oh. And my dad was having technical difficulties here. So let's go to the comments real quick here. Ray Allen, love that guy. Good choice. Yeah. I think that's probably the one common ground that we could find, James, between Bucks and Celtics fan, and it's Ray Allen. Ray Allen won a title with you. He did not win a title with us, but he had some really, really crazy years. Now, going over the Bucks, I mean, I could have had a lot of people added on here. Let me text my dad back. Just come back when you can. So with the Bucks, man, I mean, there's a lot of guys who I love who I didn't put on the list because they weren't as good as the other guys that I do have on the list. I mean, Tyler knows this, and he talked about it on our Friday show with a comparison to another guy. I'm not going to give it away because I want you guys to go back to it. But Charlie Villanueva was a guy that I used to love. He was amazing in the pick and roll, pick and pop. He was ahead of his time, and I've said that a million times in my life that Charlie Villanueva was ahead of his time. Guys like Charlie Bell, Carlos Delfino. I used to love Carlos Delfino as a kid. He was just one of the shooters on the team. Eric Bledsoe I liked. I actually did like Eric Bledsoe. Drew Holiday, obviously. I could have put Chris Middleton on there. I mean, there's just a number of guys I could have put on there. Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis. I could have put PJ Tucker on there for the fives. Dad is back after the technical difficulties.
No, I was a dumbass and I hit the wrong button as I was picking up my sheet.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So James said, and again, I still love Marcus Smart, but I apologize for the disrespect of Holiday. James, me and you were getting into it for a couple of years there. I was so mad when Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year. I was like, there's no way they handed it to this guy. But there's rumors that he might be coming to Milwaukee, which would spice things up a little bit. Actually, one of Tyler's trays that he came up with on Friday night. So as we get back into it, so did you give all your honorable mentions?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
I just said the big dog.
Mm-hmm.
Then I really didn't. I was around, but I can picture him in Bucks uniforms,
mm-hmm.
and that's Kareem and Big O. Because I was like 5, 6.
Yeah.
And they were on national TV then, and it's what a waste of a trade the Bucks did for Kareem. But anyway, and there was another guy, Brian Winters. Remember how I used to tell you back in the day when the NBA, no 3-point line, but they'd still score 120 points?
Yeah.
This guy was just, he looked like he belonged hunting up north, during deer hunting. beard all the time and kind of long hair. And it looked like a true Wisconsinite. But man, the guy was wet. He could shoot. Just he fit in with them teams. You know, him, Junior Bridgman, they were the spot players. They come in for 12 to 15 minutes a game, but it'd be splash, splash, you know, give them that little bit of energy. And then one other guy, and I know he was your favorite.
Uh-oh.
Come on, Ursan.
Oh, my God. That would have been on Tyler's list. That 100% would have been on Tyler's list. Because they used to call me Andrew Bogut, because I would try to get blocks and rebounds and score down low, and Schickard would be on the perimeter shooting the three. So he was Ursan, and I was Bogut.
Oh, boy.
Hey, respect the Turkish Thunder.
Remember on the video games, though? If you had Ursan on your team, you made the finals.
Yeah, that was so weird how that was.
I agree with the back issues with Brian Winters, but there's a guy who remembers them.
Let's see. Let's go to the comments real quick here. He says,
Bucks I agree. The Bucks kind of are in a tough spot. I mean, they got a couple young players, but
they're not in a tough spot. Brook is retiring after this year. He has 1 year on his contract. Middleton has 2 years. After those contracts are done, Giannis is still only going to be 33. You can still go after it for 5 more years. Now, he's not going to be the same Giannis, and Dame's not going to be the same Dame, but there's outs in contracts. You can get out of bad contracts. But the thing with Giannis is you can just have him be a guy that grabs rebounds and be a dump-off guy in the low post and score down low. If he gets a little turnaround fade.
Yeah, but his game is getting old and running.
I know, but he does have a little bit of low post game where he can develop that a little bit more as he gets older. I mean, he already started it last offseason.
Just gotta hope that, you know, the injury that took him out this year and the knees and stuff. That's
they don't pile on, right. But we're not future tellers. But I don't think the Bucks are in a bad spot at all, in my opinion.
The rubber band man, yep, Ursan.
Yeah, that's going to be a thing. I mean, Brook Lopez gets a lot of playing time, and he doesn't keep up with the NBA quickness. So if Brook Lopez can adjust his game from going from a strictly low post guy to shooting 500 threes in a year, I can see Giannis adjusting.
The only thing that, to me, that holds back Brook is as good as he is as a defender, he gets smoked on the pick and roll a lot.
He does.
It's like he gets caught because, I'm going to try to block this, you know, and then should have went the other way. And then when he comes out, then he gets beat off the dribble, and it's an easy, you know, layup for.
Yeah, that's. I can go on this conversation.
Yeah. We that's not what the show's about, right?
I could go on forever talking about drop defense and
all the Packers, huh?
But yeah, so now we're gonna go to the hardest list, in my opinion. You could have put a million guys on here, honestly, but we had to bring it down to 4. And I have some real emotions when it comes to the Packers. They're by far my favorite franchise in all of sports. I love the Packers so much. They're the favorite. They're the best. They're number one. You're not allowed to talk to me about them because I think they're the best at everything. But we're going to do the Packers. So who is your number one?
You go first.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm about to create a lot of emotions with this first one. Because my number one is the best player. I want people to listen to me. The best player in our franchise history, Aaron Rodgers. He's the most talented thrower of the football. He can run to his left, and he's right-handed. To his left, be straddling the sidelines, throw it 50 yards down the field, and between 2 DBs. When is the last time you've seen a quarterback be able to do that? Mahomes is pretty good now. But what's the one thing that me and you agree on? Mahomes is not as accurate as Rodgers is. And I think people really forgot pre-collarbone Rodgers was throwing flamethrowers with pinpoint accuracy. I used to tell people that he could throw it 150 miles an hour and hit you in the eyeball if you want. That is how good he was throwing a football. Obviously, the 4 MVPs, which is second in NFL history. I could have went over all the numbers, and I would have been talking for about 15 minutes with how good this guy is. But Aaron Rodgers, dude, was a bad man. I mean, there's a reason that he had that nickname. So, number one for me by far is Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, I didn't rank him, but I have Aaron Rodgers on my list too. So
what's up, George?
I'm not gonna complain with that pick because yeah, he's arm talent. Yeah, the closest thing I can probably remember seeing to somebody throwing a ball like him was Dan Marino. He was quick with tight spirals. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, I agree. You know, he could throw a football.
See, I'm gonna reply to this comment here real quick because now I feel like it. Do you remember how good Aaron Rodgers was throwing to Jordy Nelson? He was pretty damn accurate. Pretty damn accurate. Pretty crazy how accurate he was with Jordy Nelson. Helps that Mahomes had Tyreek Hill, who might be the best deep threat in NFL history, honestly. Him or Randy Moss. Pretty close. Tyreek Hill he's just so much faster than everybody. And I have a buddy, Jason, and he likes to make this joke, and he says it about Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is so fast, he makes fast people look not fast. And that's exactly what Tyreek Hill does. That's how fast he is. I mean, Randy Moss was that too for a little bit, but Tyreek Hill I have a little bit more respect for because he actually goes over the middle if he has to. He doesn't alligator arm it. But who is your number one?
I have one person. No ranking.
Okay.
He was the same as you, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, so I'll do my second one. My second one, I'm not going to say he's my favorite defense player of all time, but he's up there. And it's Charles Woodson. Dude, Charles Woodson, man. Oh, my God. All the good memories I have of watching Charles Woodson, yeah. He gave me a peace sign once. That was awesome. Charles Woodson, man, he defensive player of the year. He didn't even want to be here. His free agency, market was so bad that he was just like, man, I don't want to go there. It's cold as hell there and all that stuff. And he ends up coming here and, the Super Bowl halftime talk. I mean, all the stuff that involves Charles Woodson as a Packer. And I was actually at the game where his number, oh no, was he retired? Yeah, his number was retired for the Packers because I was there. I was there for a bunch of them and I was drunk at one of them. And I think that was the one. But Charles Woodson, man, he was awesome. He was amazing. We made him a Hall of Famer, by the way, I think. I think if he wouldn't have had his time in Green Bay, because he was okay in Oakland, I think once he came here and he won a Defensive Player of the Year and he won a Super Bowl, I think that made him a Hall of Famer.
I agree with getting a ring and
yeah.
I mean, he was putting up numbers.
Mm-hmm. But he had a lot of touchdowns for us, man.
He was a beast playing all over.
The hitting the Heisman in Detroit was crazy, man. That was crazy.
I got a bunch for honorable mentions in this one too.
Oh, I could go crazy, man. Tom Brady.
My second base up there, Brett Favre.
Yeah, he didn't make my list, but he's pretty good.
What did I tell you growing up?
Tell me a lot of things.
Brett Favre, he had the heart.
Yeah.
He made you scratch your head a lot because it was, everybody always, or the announcer would be like, "Oh, nobody can make that throw except Brett Favre." Well, because probably 98% of the other quarterbacks wouldn't have tried to make that throw because when he would throw it to the other team, the announcers could have said, "Nobody makes that throw except for Brett Favre."
Right.
You know what I mean? But,
right.
Oh my God, early when he took over as starter, Tampa Bay, when they started having a good defense, Warren Sapp just smokes him one. And Favre gets up off the ground and is in his face yapping. And I'll tell you what, your Uncle Mike would say this too. When Favre got his bell rung, my God, this guy became lights out. That's when he turned the accuracy on. It was amazing. He could drop dimes in there, but he could also throw the 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
Right.
Didn't who did they talk about? Robert Woods, I think it was. If you look at this guy's hands, his knuckles are they're ugly, his hands. Yeah. They said that's from all the times his fingers got dislocated from catching the balls from Favre. It's cold, and you throw it so damn hard.
Right.
But Favre was fun to watch. And when you're a quarterback and you hold the record for the most consecutive games started, that's pretty impressive.
That's true.
I know he took the painkillers and all that stuff, but
he didn't make my list because his last pass as a Packer was an interception to lose in the playoffs, and then he wanted to give a giant middle finger to the Packers and go play for the Vikings, and that just still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'm like, okay, guy, come on. It was your time to go.
It got ugly.
And it was both sides. I'm not just saying it was just Favre. It was the Packers too, but they did the same thing with Rodgers, right? And it's worked out both times for him. So I can't really argue with him.
Well, Favre kept saying, I think I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, they're going to have to retire because of age and all that. So right. Yeah, as a franchise, you gotta
see.
It's more than one person.
Exactly, and that's why I think the Packers did what they did with Rodgers, is because when he was like, "Oh, I might retire, I might be done, I'm gonna go do this darkness thing," it was like, dude, don't be playing around with that. Like,
no, I think with Rodgers, I think if they would have just told him, said, "Hey, we know you're not going to be around forever."
Yeah.
And just communicate it a little bit. Yeah. Not that you really need to, but you should be talking to him, like, hey, what are your feelings? Where are you at?
Yeah.
Okay, you're going to play another 2 or 3 years, you think? All right, maybe we do get this guy, and we want, hopefully to just learn behind you and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Again, both sides could have been better.
I agree.
That ain't for us. We're only talking about our Mount Rushmores and stats and impact on the team. And
so my number 3 is a guy that I remember seeing, like you were saying before. I can picture him in a Packer uniform. I remember watching him, in games, but I don't remember like I do the other guys in this list. But it's Reggie White. I mean, one of the best defensive linemen of all time. He has one of the most unstoppable moves in NFL history. Single-handedly finished the Super Bowl by himself. He was like, yeah, we're done now. So you're going to go over here. I'm going to sack your quarterback, and then we're going to call it a day. The video of him running around on the field, just all happy and pumping his fist in the air. I mean, iconic stuff. So Reggie White, my number 3. Who is the third guy on your list?
I also have Reggie White on the list. That was a time where the Packers were coming off a lot of bad years. And then we had Mikowski, and we actually won some games that people didn't think we ever would have won and all this stuff. So, I mean, you could see we were starting to turn the corner a little bit and all that. Mm-hmm. But we never got free agents here. Mm-hmm. And when Reggie said God told him to go to Green Bay, I mean, holy cow, because he was the best defensive player for a lot of years. Mm. The defensive line they had in Philadelphia was beyond crazy. Mm-hmm. But, when he came to Green Bay, and then all of a sudden Sean Jones followed behind, and they drafted the one guy, and we had the Gravedigger. I mean, Fritz Shermer, a defensive coordinator, all of a sudden, Reggie coming. You had Favre now. on one side, you had Reggie on the other. You had players that, okay, now they want to come here, and oh my God.
Good time.
And he was such a great player. You know, he was a deacon or something.
Oh, Deacon Jones.
No, he was a deacon, religious.
Oh yeah.
And
I thought you were talking football yet.
but you could. Well, I'm talking Reggie.
Yeah.
And the guy could jam on a guitar. For real.
Yeah, I know. I watched the 30 for 30.
It's like, how do you not love him?
All right.
And we named a dog after him because of you.
So there's that.
The real Reggie White. I just remember you got so embarrassed because two women turned around after you said that and looked at you, and you just, Dad, you know, and it's like, you were just in awe. Is that the real Reggie White? And I'm like, yeah.
I was a little kid. I was a very little child. So you had Reggie White. I had Reggie White. Last person on my Mount Rushmore for the Packers. This is where a lot of thinking had to come in because you're writing these names on. You're like, Rodgers is on there. I love Charles Woodson. I love Reggie White. And I'm like, I got a lot of people I love, and I only have one spot left. And I just went with my gut on this one, and it was Nick Collins. I was such a Nick Collins guy. I think he would have been a Hall of Famer if he didn't get hurt. He was up there with the safeties, and it just sucks that his career ended so short and abruptly. And it really took the Packers defense on a really bad tailspin going down when he got hurt, and then Charles Woodson was getting older, and then, Clay Matthews was left with all the responsibility, and they paid Nick Perry, and, BJ Raji left, and just all these dominoes are falling. And now the Packers, think of how long ago that injury was. I think the Packers are finally starting to recover from that. Like, we finally got some talent, like legit NFL top 5 defense talent after drafting in the first round for years and years and years, switching back to the 4-3, which they should have done about 6 years ago. But again, a discussion for a different day. But Nick Collins was absolutely a stud, and I could still see step for step his interception in the Super Bowl against the Steelers, and him diving into the end zone and going like this, and Clay Matthews over the top, and I'm just like, man, good vibes, man. Who's your last one?
Hey, Sterling Sharp.
That's a pretty good one.
Like your age, you guys really don't know much about him, but came out of South Carolina.
Yep.
And I remember when they drafted him, again, we didn't have all the college football shows we do now. So, you don't know all these players. Back then, the recruiting was so different and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Not the recruiting, but,
draft process.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. And it was Sterling Sharp, and it's kind of like, and then you looked at him, and he was put together. Mm-hmm. So he didn't look like, to me, a typical receiver, Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, they were skinnier, like a Jerry Rice and a James Lofton and shit like that, and just watching him play, and the guy just could catch.
Oh, yeah.
He ran routes and he caught the ball. And again, a stupid neck injury. Because I remember he came back from it, and he had this special strap made that was attached to his helmet and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But he just wasn't the same player, and it was best for his safety, for his life. But you look at a couple of years he had there, and just coming into his prime with a Brett Favre throwing him the ball. They had, that offensive line back then, dominant as hell. They were mean. They had the defense. Jesus, they were built for
a dynasty. Could have been. But I have one honorable mention. This is the one guy that would have took the place of Nick Collins. And I think you're going to know who it is. It's Jermichael Finley.
Oh, no.
Who'd you think I was going to say Javon Walker?
No.
Who'd you think I was going to say?
Devontae.
I love Devontae, but Dan
or another guy on defense.
Okay, who? Clay Matthews?
No.
Aaron Campman?
Oh no, you didn't see him really play.
Oh. No, but
Leroy.
you know how much I used to love Jermichael Finley. I used to get in arguments all day with people. They're like, "Oh, he sucks. He drops the ball." I'm just like, you don't even know what you're talking about. And for years, we didn't have a tight end. And what do tight ends do? The good tight ends that can vertically take over the middle of the field. What does that do for an offense? Why do you think they drafted two of those guys in the draft last year? And look out, what does Musgrave do? He controls middle of the field with his speed. Not that, Kraft doesn't do that as well. But Kraft is a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. He's a little bit more dirty and he blocks. But Jermichael Finley was a monster, dude. And he would have, oh, man, imagine if he did catch the ball. He would have been one of the best tight ends in NFL history with how athletic he was. But I digress. Name your honorable mention list.
Oh, God, I had a bunch. I had Chuck in there. Amon Green.
Oh, I didn't even consider him. I used to love Amon Green.
Because, I mean, you think of all the shit he did. He got better with his fumbling and how he could catch the ball. And he was always an outlet. If I was in trouble, oh, hey, look at that, Amon Green. Hey. James Lofton.
Pretty good.
He for the bad teams, he still was very productive. And then the guy I was thinking you were going to say, but I should have known you were too young. The innovator of the Lambeau Leap.
Oh, I actually met him. I actually met Leroy.
I know you. I remember you meeting him. It's just watching him play, and they used him all over.
Mm-hmm.
He could play at the line of scrimmage. He was a game changer out there. It helped having the other guys, but
and he's still a big Packer like influencer. He talks about the Packers all the time.
Yeah, I sent you that video of the first Lambeau Leap, right?
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it a bunch.
Because it was Reggie that helped him.
I know. I've seen it a whole bunch. I mean, I've had to look up a lot of these guys in the 80s, like the Sterling Sharps, 90s for him, 80s, 90s for him. But then I've looked up James Lofton. I've looked up all these old guys trying to learn and, understand, what you guys were going through watching them be bad, but then have some of these like pretty good players. James Lofton was the first guy that I thought of. Like, we were pretty bad, and I watched.
I grew up with 6 and 10 teams and stuff.
Yeah,
man, we had a hell of an offense. Lynn Dickey was the quarterback, but he got beat up so bad that near the end of his career, he'd think he's getting rushed and he'd duck down.
Really,
it was kind of bad, but in the heyday, he could throw the ball. He had Paul Kaufman as a tight end, who was a pretty good guy out of Missouri. Control the middle of the field. You had James Lofton on one side. You had John Jefferson. He came from the Chargers, who had Eric Coryell with Dan Fouts and all that.
Okay.
So the Packers could throw the ball back then.
Okay.
They just couldn't stop guys very good.
Our defense was bad. Okay.
I mean, we would have a couple okay players, but overall,
not good.
And we were going through the coaching carousel like bad teams do. Lindy and Fonte. Although he had the magic man, so
yeah. All the Packers fans in their mid to early 30s are learning a bunch right now. So, all right. Now, we're going to do our all-time Mount Rushmore. This is Badgers, basketball, and football, Bucks, Brewers, and Packers, and we're putting it down to one Wisconsin sports Mount Rushmore that we have seen. So, go ahead and give me your first guy on your Mount Rushmore.
Well, I just give you all of them since we've talked about all these guys.
Okay, already. Okay, go ahead. Give me all of them.
I got Robin Yount on there.
Okay.
Alvarez.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm surprised by that.
He was so impactful to Wisconsin sports.
Okay.
Brett Favre.
Okay.
Brett Favre and Reggie White.
That's your 4? Wow, that is actually crazy. I did not expect any of that. You think? Oh, wow.
The impact they had on the franchises.
Okay.
Not that Giannis couldn't have been up there. It's just, he's still playing. He's got even more to go.
Yeah.
He's still got the hunger. He's young enough.
Okay.
It's hard because he is still playing. I'm sure you have him on your list, but that's all right.
So I'll just get it going right now. So I do have Giannis. He was the first guy I wrote down. I was like, dude, this guy is single-handedly, like, in today's social media world, he keeps the Bucks marketable because they get very. I mean, there was lots of talks about the Bucks moving to Seattle.
There's no way. They can't for how long they have an agreement.
I know.
I know he sold off part.
I know.
That's another whole story, right?
That was my number one. My first guy I put on there. Second, put Aaron Rodgers on there because again, I think he's the best player in Packers history. Argue with the wall. I'm not arguing with you. J.J. Watt is my number 3. That's the third guy because again, born in Wisconsin. I mean, being a Wisconsin-born guy in the NFL Hall of Fame in modern day NFL means a lot to me. And then my fourth guy, and that's why I was telling you before. I put Bob Uecker up there. I was like, I need Uecker up there, man. I have so many good memories as a kid. We were listening to him, and I just remember going to play baseball with all the boys, and then coming home and playing more baseball and playing basketball in the middle of winter, and we're shoveling 12 inches of snow just to shoot a basketball for 15 minutes. I mean, I just have so many good memories of sports in general, and especially Uecker in the summer times. I mean, get up, get out of here, gone. One of the best things that you can hear as Wisconsin sports fans. So that's my all-time Mount Rushmore. That's all my Mount Rushmores. It's my dad's Mount Rushmores. Again, happy Father's Day to everybody. Appreciate everybody watching, following, commenting. Still not agreeing with James on the Celtics winning. So with that being said, thank you. Hopefully everybody has a good night, and come join us on Wednesday.